Okay. Today I have to look after my kids. I will start with the moderation. If I disappear, we agreed with Amelia that she will take over.
Will do.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. So let's start. Hello to the TUC meeting on 26th of September. So we have the usual agenda today with an update from the Application Runtime Interfaces Working Group. Let me share my screen so that we see the meeting notes. So we had one approved RFC last time, and I had the action to update the number of the RFC. So I did this, and I found a small issue in the script. I open a PR for it. We can discuss it later. And yeah, there was no other action item. So we can then proceed with the update from the App Runtime Interfaces Working Group. Greg is here, so the floor is yours, Greg.
All right. Yeah, so as usual, I don't remember exactly what my update was last time. So I tried to get a delta from my last update, but I may have missed some things at the margin. I guess on the CAPI side, some of the bigger technical initiatives that are going there is we're resuming some of the Puma migration and metrics work. So for those of y'all who haven't been exposed to this issue or this effort, CAPI is in the process of slowly migrating over from Thin over to the Puma web server. And as part of that, it's going to need some kind of substantial changes to metrics or the cloud controller component metrics, both because the existing set of metrics don't really make sense in a like clustered Puma environment. And then also like technically, currently you have like a single cloud controller node that integrates with statsd to provide metrics, and that pattern won't work in Puma mode. So we're instead moving off of statsd over to Prometheus and providing a new set of metrics there. So I don't have a link handy, but there is a proposal that has been shared with the community for what that change in metrics looks like and what that process is going to look like. We've had an optional Puma mode for a while, though without the metrics changes, and it's kind of been on the back burner for a little bit, but the CAPI working group area is resuming that work, and hopefully we'll start seeing the new Prometheus metrics available in upcoming CAPI releases there. I guess another change that's happening on CAPI side is we're starting to evaluate the migration to Rails 7. So CAPI is currently on Rails 6. The Rails support windows are not super well specified, but Rails 6 is starting to get a little old. So we're in the interest of staying on well-supported versions of Rails. We're starting the process of moving to Rails 7. It looks like the upgrade to Rails 7 itself will not be especially difficult. However, it has a carry-on effect where the module loading implementation in Rails technically changed in 6, but you had the option to revert to the previous behavior. But now that option is going away. So instead, we didn't face down that breaking change in Rails 6, but now that we're going to Rails 7, we're being forced to contend with that. And that is causing some problems. I'm hoping it will end up not being a big issue, but right now that's the main blocker for the Rails 7 upgrade. I guess some other things that are going on. we've been fixing a small number of minor issues that have come in with CF Linux FS4. So, now that CF Linux FS4 is out in the wild and in broad use, some people are noticing some small regressions or changes there that we weren't expecting. I guess the most notable one that I've seen has been there was an issue with the ping utility due to some upstream changes with how the ping utility was installed and how its permissions were managed due to some of the eccentricities of how we export Cloud Foundry stacks and then load them in as the file system in our application containers. Some of the permissions around the ping utility were getting garbled, actually in several places. So with some collaboration with the runtime group, we were able to get the ping utility working again in modern versions of Garden and CF Linux FS4. There's also, this was largely undertaken by other working groups, including Amelia, but there's this Readiness health check feature that has been very minimally exposed in CAPI. So I think the plan going forward is to continue the gradual rollout of improving the information that we expose about readiness health checks on API and hopefully further up into the clients also. I guess other future work that we're starting to evaluate, though this will be further down the line, we're starting to look at a wind down plan for the V7 CLI. So the V7 and V8 CLIs have both been simultaneously available for quite a long time now. And I think especially with the current execution capacity of the CLI group, it's not been a huge amount of effort to maintain both, but I think we're starting to look at what the plan for moving on to V8 and then hypothetical future V9 would look like there. And once we have a more concrete plan there, we'll definitely announce it. I guess another thing is we've been getting an increased number of reports from various places of people running into build pack cache limits. So for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of being exposed to the build pack cache before, when a build pack builds an application, the build pack itself can choose to store a bunch of arbitrary data to help speed up future builds. So generally, this is just a cache of packages that an application is commonly built with. Especially for Java and JavaScript applications, it seems that those packages are finally starting to catch up in size with the arbitrary build pack cache limit that we had configured sometime 10 years ago when we were first setting our default values for file sizes. So we've been getting some increased reports of people hitting that limit. It is configurable in the manifest, so operators can go and bump it in, but generally people aren't very excited when their application stages fail due to hitting some arbitrary upload limit there. So one of the things we're evaluating is, well, if this build pack cache is an optimization for speeding up builds, it's not critical to the actual staging of the application, so maybe we need to be more fault tolerant about how we're handling this cache and not fail pushes due to cache errors. So that's one thing we're evaluating there. I guess even potentially further down the line, we've started collecting some feedback around how people are using application manifests. And this has been something that I personally have wanted to do for a long time, but starting to look at what it would mean to have declarative application manifests, similar to our friends at BOSH and the entire rest of the ecosystem at this point, getting to a new revision of application manifests that are maybe more in line with how people would expect them to work, given things like Kubernetes and modern tooling and all that stuff. But again, that's going to be a bigger project and will spread out over probably quite a while. I guess, like, operationally for the working group, we've definitely had so we've been running into a lot of, or some constraints on our contributors for the CLI area and especially the Java areas. I think right now we're under the number of contributors that we want to be able to effectively maintain those areas. Like, I know we have a huge backup with a lot of the Java tools areas. I've been working to try to get we have a couple of reviewers in that area, so I've been trying to work to get those reviewers up to approver status. But we're hitting a little bit of a catch-22 where it's like, in order for the reviewers to have enough contributions to become approvers, they need to have their contributions merged, but then the merged are blocked, the merge is blocked because there's not enough approvers. So I'm working actively to try to unsnarl that and get to a point where some of those reviewers can start functioning as approvers. But we're definitely seeing again, especially in the Java area, some backup there in PRs that are getting merged in. Also in the notifications area, there's like 3 PRs open right now, trying to get more approvers in that area. And the main issue I'm running into right now is just getting Stevenson to agree on who can be the new approver there. So I'm actively, because he's currently the one approver in that area. So I'm continuing to work with him to figure out what he wants to do. But that so far has been not the smoothest process. So there's a number of PRs open there, but last I checked, none of them were fully actionable. And then I guess the last item other than the stacks RFC is I submitted another PR for another admin override team. So for those of y'all who have been exposed to it, we already have a buildpacks override team and a CLI override team to give select members of those working group areas admin access for managing GitHub secrets, because they use GitHub Actions, and due to idiosyncrasies of our current GitHub organization, the only way to manage secrets for GitHub Actions is to be an admin. So I've gone ahead and submitted a new pull request for the multi-apps team to have similar permissions. So again, these override teams are functional, but we also don't currently have a like longer term solution outside of these override teams on how we want to support teams using GitHub Actions and managing secrets and that kind of stuff. And then I guess the final item that we had talked about was the PR/RFC for Paketo stacks, which has kind of been sitting in limbo for a few months now. So I don't have a great update there. I have continued in the background trying to learn more about the Cloud Native build pack specification. It seems like, similar to the last Cloud Native build pack PR, it seems like it's a question of how do we find the balance between changing the like Cloud Foundry build and runtime to adhere closer to the Cloud Native build pack platform specification versus how do we bend the Paketo build packs and stacks to fit into the current Cloud Foundry build and runtime. yeah, so how do we strike a good balance there without painting ourselves into a corner where future modifications to Paketo caused by modifications to the cloud native build pack specification end up in a situation where Paketo's kind of pulled or put it in untenable or awkward spot where it's unable to support or simultaneously support the latest CNB specification, but also continue to function on Cloud Foundry. So yeah, so that's kind of the state of things there. I think my primary objective with the Paketo Stacks RFC was providing a path on Cloud Foundry for having more control over the operating system packages in specifically running containers. So I think if this RFC doesn't go through, I think there's a more generic version of this RFC that looks like just saying for a given Cloud Foundry stack, it can provide multiple rootfs's, and the runtime rootfs could have less packages in it. The convenient thing about coupling that to Paketo stacks is the Paketo stacks already have that. Like they already have a set of 6 to 8 stacks that have differences between build and runtime packages available. So that is a convenient group of stacks that versus a hypothetical, CF Linux FS4 build and run rootfs, which doesn't exist currently, and I don't necessarily see existing in the future without some significant investment there. So I think from a very CF-centric view, I think that's the primary benefit I was hoping to get out of this RFC. Again, I am not super well enmeshed into the CNB ecosystem, but it looks like they're, and part of the things that Jan was concerned about is they're going through a pretty major restructuring, breaking change in the CNB specification to move away from stacks and starting to move to a world where build packs specify, and I'm going to get the nouns wrong here, but they specify like a set of capabilities or attributes that they need for builds. And then, so they'll say like, oh, I need Ubuntu with this version, and I need these operating system packages to be present. And then the platform can provide a series of builds, basically rootfs's or builds images that are compatible with the requirements of the cloud native build pack. So these are all a series of changes in the specification that have been rolling through. But I have no idea when these specifications would actually manifest in Paketo or in real real build packs. And even in the RFCs on the cloud native build pack side, there's a lot of language talking about like, during the unspecified migration period, build packs should continue to support both stacks and this new format. So yeah. So honestly, I'd kind of hope that Ryan Moran would come back since he's straddling both the Paketo/CNB community and the Cloud Foundry community and is in a good position to kind of mediate that decision. But good for him. He's been on parental leave for the last several months, so I haven't been able to pick his brain on some of the details here.
Thank you, Greg. I'm going to jump to the one that surprised me the most that I was not expecting to hear. And that's exploring the explorations around that app manifest to make it declarative. Because when my teammates were working on the readiness health checks, which are exposed through app manifest, and we were QAing it, it definitely didn't behave in the way that they expected. And there was a lot of confusion around that because it's not declarative. Like if you define a route in there and then you get rid of it, it doesn't delete that route, right?
Yeah, I think it's even worse than not being declarative. It's inconsistently declarative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some are declarative, some aren't. You just have to know or figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so you just roll the dice on every edit you make to that file as to what's actually going to happen.
yeah, well, I would love to get rid of the confusion. Definitely changing this worries me. I'm just imagining, once this rolls out, people having lots of routes deleted or lots of things deleted that just silently existed in the background, or something. So
the good news is, and we'll definitely have like a proper RFC on this when we know what we're doing. But the good news is when we're implementing the server side manifests, I don't know, whenever that was, 5 years ago, we added a version field to the manifest specification. So we'll be able to support multiple versions of the manifest simultaneously. So all the existing manifests will, either by having a version at 1 or by not having a version, will continue with their current behavior until we decide to take it away, which will probably be never. And then anyone who wants the hypothetical non-existent, so therefore perfect v2 manifests will opt into it with a version 2 field, and then it will hopefully behave in a way that is easier to understand.
On our side, at SAP, for example, the Java tooling point is somehow blocking us because we introduce V3 APIs and the Java client, which is documented as the official one, does not support completely with the CAPI V3 APIs. For example, this is something.
So I'm personally very interested in those PRs being merged, and I've been working to try to get those unblocked. I think the problem we're running into right now is we basically have 2 approvers spread across all of the Java tooling and Java build packs stuff, and then those approvers are also approvers on the Paketo C&D side. So they're basically just like stretched extremely thin across, a wide variety of responsibilities. So I think, like I said, we currently have 2 reviewers in the Java tools area. So my hope is to try to get those to approver status as quickly as possible. I think I need to check in on this, but I think Anthony is getting close on in some of the Java areas. So hopefully that will at least add 1 more approver there. But yeah, this is definitely a pain point for, I think, all parties involved. So yeah, if anyone knows any strong and enthusiastic Java developers who want to maintain Java build packs or Java tooling, I'm always happy to bring on more reviewers, and then they can get in line to become approvers also.
Yeah, so we have Radoslav, but he is already a reviewer specifically for the Java tools, so probably not for build packs. Yeah, but yeah, he has PRs open, but they don't get merged, and that in turn makes our life difficult on other agendas that we have to deprecate the V2 API for our users and to reduce the usage on our landscapes.
Yeah, so I talked with them directly about, especially since we have a limited number of approvers currently trying to help fast track their promotion into approver. But it sounds like, approver is more than just having a role in the YAML file. It's also having the context and comfort to work within an area, and it's hard to build that up without getting feedback from the current set of approvers. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my best to politely nag the current set of approvers, and they're receptive to it. They're just very busy right now. So I'm gonna keep at it and definitely keep bothering me about it. But unfortunately, it's just a bit of a traffic jam, and I think only time can really help clear it up.
Thanks for that.
Stephan speaking here, so about the same. So Greg, I think I understand all of that. So so first of all, not having sufficient approvers. I see. So that's a bottleneck. The problem on our side is that we heavily worked on to get in with contributions, also to motivate people to contribute here to open source. And so this is where Rado did all the implementation stuff, and let's say is also interested in now to see the results get merged into the repository. Making him to an approver, that will take time. This is also what I understood. Do you think is there any option to give this pull request more priority for the review? So as long as we do not have own approvers in this area on this project. So because of, as Stephan said, this is really something which hurts currently. So we think that the V3 implementation for the Java client is ready. And we see here a lot of stakeholders, so really a lot. It's a range of thousands are waiting for this improvement.
Yeah, I can also see if there's some other options. Since this involves integration with the V3 APIs themselves, there may also be opportunities for, not necessarily on the Java tooling side, but just on the API usage side, if there's ways to get other reviews there to help reduce the burden on the Java tools team themselves, so they just need to focus on the actual Java side of the issue rather than API usage. So I can try to find some more creative solutions there to help get some reviews on those PRs, and I'll follow up again with the current set of approvers and see if I can shift around some of their priorities and get some reviews on those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
There's also the option as a tech lead for a working group to also add an approval, right? A review.
Yeah. And we always have that escape valve, though I think again in this case theoretically the review provides value in how well this will work based on the experience of the current set of maintainers. So ideally we could get some proper reviews in there, but yeah, worst case if it's not panning out, then that's an option we have also, especially if there's some that are real critical blockers and we're not able to get through.
Yeah, there are not even reviewers assigned, right, currently. It's about the adopting V3 API in routes, or is there more PRs?
Just one for security groups, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are more 3-4 PRs, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think not having reviewers assigned on GitHub was an oversight, but they have been
I see. It's on
assigned through other channels, so I will get those in sync.
Yeah.
Okay, regarding the package stacks supporting CF So my understanding is you want to make you more familiar with the CMP world and then provide input there. Or is there something we can do from our side? So I've been also commenting into the RFC to help here.
Yeah, I mean, I can reach out to some of the folks on the CNB side, CNB specification side. I think the problem with that historically has been, they generally, the current set of with a few exceptions, the current set of CNB specification authors are not familiar with how Cloud Foundry works. So it's, a question of finding the bridge there. I mean, Jan's clearly a good person there. There's a couple other people on the Paketo side who are good resources there. So I can try to find a couple of connections there. And if we're not able to do that, we could try to move into forcing the vote and see if it gets approved or not. And then also maybe Ryan will come back at some point, or hopefully Ryan will come back at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So at the moment, this is the situation. Okay. Regarding teams using GitHub Actions, I have the PR here below to review it. Maybe we can discuss later as any other business whether we can do better here. Is there anything else we can help you? Or are there any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Maybe I have
Interesting
one
stuff going
question
on.
to Greg, one last one. All the different working groups usually have a working group meeting. This is something that we actually miss in application runtime interfaces. We do have this CAPI open office hour where a lot of people here from my room actually participate, and also from VMware, but that is only about CAPI. I think there's a bit of missing communication when we go beyond the scope, and we want to discuss, for instance, Java tooling or CLI or interactions between CAPI and CLI, which happens from time to time. Do you think it would make sense to have such a uptime runtime interfaces meeting once a month or something like that? Just that we have a regular forum where I know, or everybody knows, here we can then discuss. I would not. I would keep the CAPI open office hour because that's working actually well and it helps. Everybody sees business benefits. Which I've asked.
I'll reach out to Ram and get something on the calendar.
That would be cool. So I would be interested.
I've been not writing down the question, but maybe I just thought maybe the last one at least.
It was about organizing a work group meeting.
Okay, nice. So, Greg, you wanted to look and set up something. Was this? Sorry.
I'll set something up and get it on the community calendar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. I messed up. Okay, I can correct it. Okay, I will correct later. Thank you, Greg, for the update. So we can proceed with the next agenda point, reviewing PRs. So the first one is about the temporary team required by the multi-apps area in RE working group, which Greg mentioned. This is more about for our information and so to discuss whether we can do better here in the future.
Yep. I mean, it's a third team. Meanwhile, it's a pattern that works. It solves the problem of the team, so no problem with this PR. I approved it. When we think about can we do better here, what came to my mind is we could introduce something like a working group area admin role, and that basically would then generate such a team. That would be a technical solution. I don't think without admin on the repo we can solve all the problems. So simply due to the GitHub way how it works.
Well, if the alternative was the roles, right? GitHub, do we need to change the organization to a different plan, and then we can use the roles?
Exactly. But I think that was more or less abandoned due to the involved costs, right? So far. Yeah, we can. These are the two things that we have to decide between. I think is there a hard reason why we want to prevent admin rights not to spread it too much? I mean, the worst thing is deletion of repository, right? Because that is you need a good backup then. Everything else can be reverted normally.
Like even back deletions of repos can usually through GitHub support be reverted, at least for a while. So.
Yeah, admin. Teams get admin rights at the moment if they need it.
Not necessarily all the team, but we could say that it's possible to assign maybe a subset of members to instead of approvers, they get working group area admins. The same way as we have it for the working group leads for the whole working group, but then we restrict it to an area because that's what was requested actually. Could imagine that many teams say, hey, the whole area get admin rights on our repos. That's it. How it worked in the past. That's how it works with the temporary teams actually. And that's good enough.
Given that we now have multiple instances of this exception, right? Maybe it makes sense to convert it into a pattern, right? So we at least have it in the automation. Makes sense to me to formalize it a bit more.
Maybe I start with a simple issue before we go into an RFC with 2 or 3 options, and then we can talk next time about it. And when we know which way we want to go, then we can do all the formal stuff. And because if we introduce new roles, then a lot of RFCs are affected meanwhile. But implementation is a minor part.
Okay, then we can proceed with the next
Beyhan,
one.
I know we usually do PRs, but I'm just conscious of time and that we have 2 docs folks here with a docs thing. I was wondering if we could talk about the top bullet point in any other business.
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Yeah. So then let's proceed with that. Maybe Anita, you want to introduce the topic?
Thank you. The CF docs are currently built in VMware, and our docs group run by Yolanda is actually in charge of building it. And it is built on a pipeline. The API docs are also built on this pipeline using Bookbinder Runway Concourse. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us in many ways, at VMware, all of our docs have been migrated over to a new VMware specific doc building and publishing tool set. And so all maintenance of the concourse pipelines has stopped, and they're not working as well, of course, as they were. I mean, I see it as fairly urgent to move the CF docs off this pipeline, because when it runs, it's great. It runs, it takes a few minutes, it's done, everything's published. When it doesn't work, it takes a member of our team sometimes hours to debug what's wrong with it. So there's going to come a time, and I don't know if it's tomorrow or 2 years from now, where it won't be fixable because we're not upgrading it, we're not maintaining it anymore. So I'd like to propose that CF take over publishing these. I don't know what the right answer is about how to do it, but I'd like to bring it up for discussion to see if we can start working towards something there. Ruben suggested using a package, something like Make Docs on the CF side to build them. But of course, there's quite a bit of infrastructure needed to set up there. And there's probably some expense too on the CF side to doing this. It just worries me that the current pipelines are not going to stay running. And we have to have some new solution in the pipeline for this.
What's the I don't really understand the ask. So there's like multiple aspects to it, right? There's like the current way that the docs are being built, right? It's the Bookbinder tool, which is, I think, considered legacy, or it's not being maintained. I think that's
Correct.
the main issue.
Correct.
Right? Where you're executing Bookbinder doesn't really matter, right? That could be a concourse pipeline, could be a GitHub Actions thing that like is up to your team where you want to execute it. Like I feel like the main problem is with Bookbinder not being maintained, right? That's the main concern. And then there's also like it sounds like a sort of like expectation around like staffing. I want to clarify something. There's no such thing as CF taking ownership of something, because the foundation is just the foundation owning the intellectual property, and the members of the member companies of CF, they are the ones who are contributing and maintaining these things. So like working groups are consisting of people that are actually doing the work, and they are employed by the different member companies. So there's
I understand. I'm talking more about budget.
Yeah, but like that's also budget is something that comes from the companies that are contributing.
Oh, I thought you told me that the CFF.
Yeah, like so we have budget. Yeah, CI. We have CI budget, right? So we can provide the resources, like the CI resources, but that's not people doing the work. And I feel like building docs is not as CI intensive as some of the other things that we're doing, right? So we can use a concourse pipeline hosted somewhere, but I mean, like if it's just the building of docs, it can even just be transferred to a GitHub action, which is basically free.
We can certainly do it. What we can't do is keep spending hours and hours debugging when Bookbinder fails.
Yeah, so I think that's the bigger issue, right? The bigger issue is trying to move away from, unmaintained tooling. But that's I think like decision that needs to be made by the team, like, because that's an investment, right? Where you want to switch, you want to consider some options, and then you want to figure out a migration plan.
I don't know what the limitations are. I don't know, what would have to be done to make this kind of decision or this kind of change. But I needed to raise the problem because this is not going to keep running forever. It's not workable. We already found that our group is fairly new. Yolanda's fairly new. I'm fairly new. And we've got new contractors. Pretty much all the people in our group are new, except for the person who's doing the actual publishing task. And so we keep running into surprises. So it was several months before I realized our group was intended to be building the CF docs at all. And that only came up because somebody pointed me to the CF Slack where they were saying, how come I can't see my changes? And I made them in December or November, and it's now February. So we got our act together there, and then just I don't know, 6 weeks ago, maybe less, someone was complaining that the API docs were not publishing. And once again, I didn't know that the API docs were published on that on a CF pipeline. And the reason that really didn't come up before was that it seems to be an automatic task. We don't do anything with it, but we did have to find it and debug it so that it would start running again. So I don't know if there are more surprises in our future, but I know those two for sure have to be moved off Bookbinder.
It sounds to me that it can be to separate activities, maybe to move away from Bookbinder one, so which is not maintained, and decide on where the automation is running. Maybe first the first one can be addressed, so to move away from unmaintained tooling, and afterwards, when this is done, the automation can be decided whether if it makes sense.
Our first thought was to migrate the CF docs the same way we migrated the VMware docs and put them on that tool set. But in talking to our tools group, and we've talked to them several times about it, because they're also very worried about Bookbinder because they know it's not being maintained. And they said they don't have a way to publish to this. They can do publishing and all that stuff, but they don't have a way to publish to the CF site. So I don't know if it's an option to change some permissions or something, but they don't know how to do that. That's currently not possible.
Yeah. Also, we shouldn't be using VMware internal tooling to publish open source docs.
I agree.
Because,
I agree.
The foundation needs to be self-contained in that sense. So we can only use open source tooling to publish these docs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think we all hear your frustration in how new the docs team is. We know it was ramped down and recently ramped up, and the loss of context. And
yes,
we know the hard job that you have been assigned.
Yeah, I've been here 11 months, and I am in the deep end for sure.
Despite that, I bet you know more about docs than we do.
I hope I do.
Me. And I mean, we're happy to help you make these decisions, but I guess I don't know what a good answer is. I would be curious to hear, like, if you wanted our input, to hear you propose, like, the multiple options, and then help us, or then we can help evaluate them.
Yeah, I think one of my problems is that I don't know what is in the purview of each side, for example. So if we were, for example, to consider the option Ruben suggested of using Make Docs, which is an open source build, I don't know what it would take to get that up and running. I don't know what kind of resources it would take. I don't know what it costs. I don't know then what kind of infrastructure we would need to set up on the CF side, and I mean, yeah, though I think probably the docs working group would maintain it and work it, which is great. But as far as setting it up and programming whatever automations are required to get it all going, I don't really know where that will be done or how. So I'm hoping you guys can kind of guide me, because certainly we've got ideas for where we want to end up.
I think like one of the underlying issues that I'm sensing a bit is that like in the past there was always the expectation that the docs group would also own the automation, right? Their own automation. And I feel like there's currently a bit of maybe a gap within the expertise in the docs team in that area. Right?
For sure.
I feel like that's the underlying issue that we're having here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we used to hire engineers to build Bookbinder, and to, we didn't expect people with technical writing expertise to maintain Bookbinder.
Yeah, we're lucky we still have people who can do it. We don't have many because they keep moving around. I mean, these are legacy Pivotal people, and we're lucky enough to have one of them in our group, Ben Klein, and he still runs it, which without him it wouldn't be running half the time. But without him, there are a couple, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 people in VMware who still know how to deal with it, and none of them work in our group anymore. So it's, I'm just worried. I can see strings of many days where it builds successfully, weeks at a time, but I never know when's the last one. So I find it quite scary, quite honestly. But yeah, you're right. We don't have the expertise to do the automation for that, how to set that up. So certainly, I can write a proposal, but as far as resources to do that, we don't have them. We don't have them in the docs group. As you know, the docs working group is 3 weeks old. We had our first meeting and only Ben and I went and Chris helped to make sure everything was working, but we don't have any uptake on that yet. And when we do, I suspect they'll all be technical writers. So I'm really not sure. I think we're going to have to ask for your help, for some programming help from one of the other working groups for sure to get this going. We can certainly be trained on keeping it running after that. I'm very happy to take that on. As far as getting it going, I don't honestly know.
Yeah, this sounds like, yeah, action is needed.
Yeah, so I guess we need some action items, and I'm happy to take on absolutely everything that I can take on. But I don't even know what all the actions are.
Well, it seems like either you need allocated someone that has background in running pipelines or things like that, or we need to figure out what the right tech stack is that is,
Yeah.
But every tech stack needs some work.
That's right. Yeah. So we need to pick one, and I don't know what basis we use to pick one. One, it has to be open source. 2, hopefully the automation is easy. I don't know. I don't know.
Is this something to raise with the CFF board? Because there seems to be like an allocation problem here.
Yeah, I'm meeting with Catherine later today, so that's not the whole board, but it's going to be relevant.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
Because from the TOC, I don't like we can help give some technical direction if there's like a proposal, review that, right? But like we have no control over, like, and we have control over the CI budget a bit, but I don't feel like that's the main problem here, right? It's more of a.
I think it isn't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think Catherine McGarvey is on the board, isn't she?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm meeting with later today, so I can bring this up.
Good.
We got a few-
Excellent.
I know there's a ton going on at VMware right now, so you know this is kind of a delicate time. But yeah, I'll bring this up with her today, and I guess Anita, I'll just ping you directly back. But
Sure.
maybe get back on this in a future meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, then we can continue the discussions in the next meetings about this topic.
Thank you.
So we have. Thank you, Anita, for bringing this up. So we have 3 minutes. Should we leave the rest for the next week? Yeah, I think there is nothing urgent which needs immediate reaction here. Okay, then thank you all, and have a great day, evening. See you next week. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.